Have you ever come across that biblical phrase, the strange woman, and just kind of wondered what it's really all about? Well, today we're diving deep into a book that's dedicated to answering that exact question.
It really all boils down to this, doesn't it? The term pops up in the Bible, but what does it actually mean? What are the characteristics we're even talking about here? The author of our source material, Dag Heward-Mills, he was so gripped by this question that he wrote a whole book about it. So let's follow his investigation and see where he takes us. And here it is. This is our source. Just so we're clear, everything we're about to cover comes directly from this book, which is basically set up to be a kind of field guide for understanding this particular biblical concept. Okay, so first things first. Before you can identify anything, you need a definition, right? So how does this author define strangeness?
Right off the bat, the book's definition is super specific. See, strangeness here isn't just about being a bit odd or different. In this context, it's defined as a condition that actually leads people toward fornication and adultery.
And here's a really important clarification the author makes. Even though the original Bible text talks about a woman, the book is very clear that these traits and behaviors aren't exclusive to one gender. They can apply to men too. So after laying down that definition, the author builds out a framework. He breaks the whole concept down into 4 key archetypes to help with identification. So here's the framework. First up, you have the conscious type, who knows exactly what they're doing. Then, the complete opposite, the unconscious type, who has no idea. The author then splits it further, distinguishing between the secular type, who he describes as worldly prostitutes, and the church type, and this is someone who shows these same behaviors but from inside a religious community. So keep those 4 in your head as we move forward. All right, this is where that field guide idea really kicks in. The book shifts from these broad categories to a really detailed list of specific telltale signs to look out for. And when I say detailed, I mean it. The book lists 20 distinct signs. Now, we don't have time to go through every single one, but we're going to explore some of the major examples the author uses to build his case. The very first sign the book points to is a person's friend group. And the logic here is pretty straightforward, right? People with the same kind of lifestyle and goals, well, they tend to stick together. To really drive this home, the author uses that old proverb we've all heard, "Show me your friend and I will show you your character." The idea being presented is that your social circle is basically a mirror of your true self. So, from who a person hangs out with, the book moves on to how they present themselves to the world, and specifically, it zeroes in on their clothing. The author builds this entire point from a specific verse, highlighting the phrase, the attire of an harlot. Now, the book's interpretation is that the clothing itself is a signal of intent, completely separate from what someone does for a living. And the book's theological argument gets incredibly specific here. It argues that revealing clothes are a key sign because, from its point of view, certain parts of the body, like a woman's breasts, have only 2 very specific, private purposes. Next up, the author flags a person's history as another major sign. The book argues that what someone has done in the past is a critical piece of the puzzle that you just can't ignore, especially when you're thinking about marriage. And to show just how serious this is, the book tells a story about a pastor who, it claims, married a woman with a troubled past without knowing it, and it led to total tragedy. It's really held up as the ultimate cautionary tale. The book then outlines what it sees as an escalation of behavior. It might start with physical touch, hugging, kissing, but then it crosses a line into what the author calls being unlawfully familiar, which is about breaking down social boundaries to get intimate way too fast. Now here's the tactic the author calls out as being particularly clever, and it connects right back to that church-type archetype we mentioned earlier, and that is appealing to someone through their sense of faith. The book uses this verse to show exactly how it works. The interpretation is that the person is basically saying, "Hey, don't worry about me. I'm a good believer, just like you are. See, I have paid my vows." It's presented as using piety as a tool to make someone lower their guard. So, after laying out all of these signs for identification, the book's focus makes a really important shift. It tries to answer the question, who is most at risk here? Who's being targeted? And according to the author, the targets aren't random at all. The focus is on strong men. Think people in positions of power, like leaders, pastors, or successful business owners. The book claims these are the individuals who are specifically targeted for their status, or what it calls their precious lives. So, what's the whole point of all this? Why create such a provocative and detailed field guide? Well, the conclusion of the book makes its purpose absolutely clear. And that right there is the big takeaway. The book isn't meant to be some academic study. It's designed to be a practical, spiritual tool. Its stated goal is to arm readers so they can recognize and avoid what the author presents as a very serious spiritual danger.